Sweet. Got a solid 18% on my headphones, so we may have to switch pretty soon, but we'll see until they die. Anybody late? You missed the dog show.
Did you have a dog show?
Yeah, showed my dogs.
Oh,
Yep, picked up the Rottweiler and everything. Broke my back. Okay, I am sharing, right?
yeah.
I think I pressed it and then I forgot if I pressed it or not. I've been trying to keep the syllabus pretty up to date with our course. And so if you want to look back and go over any of the homework or look at things we covered, then this was, I kind of did it as we went along, which is kind of not what the syllabus is for, but now that is there for ever. Sweet. Okay, we're in day 7. I like how day 6 went with the prep, so I made a prep folder too, so we'll reference that if we need it. But I'm gonna go ahead and make a new folder. That is gonna be my in-class folder. If you're just following along, you could just leave this at the root level. Start it with an HTML file, like normal. Use our bang to build this all out. And let's go ahead and make a CSS file as well. Files.css. Sweet. Should all be pretty familiar linking CSS files at this point. I say as I almost forgot what I needed to put. Okay. So got this, and let's go ahead and open this up with Live Server also. Kill that. Okay. So we've got our in-class index.html. Let's go ahead and just put in a div that is the box, just so we can make sure that we are linked up properly, and we will use this box later on also. Let's just give it a height of 200 pixels, width of 100%, and background color of something. What's a good color? Someone pick a color.
Green.
Green. Sweet.
I missed my chance to ruin the web page.
Okay, so we've got a box, and let's go ahead and give it a margin bottom also of just like 20 pixels or something. Okay, and let's make sure that shows up. Sick. All right, so we've got this box. And so today we are learning about positioning. I kind of fucked up the order of the homework. So you guys did this homework for today's class before Saturday, but it's okay. It's still important. We're going to cover it. So today we're going to be talking about positioning, and we're also going to talk about setting up so far we've only been working on just index.html. And so we're going to set up multiple pages and link between them. And so we'll kind of show how to do that, and then that'll set us up nicely for Saturday. Sweet. Okay, so let's just make like 1,000 boxes. So we can, the goal here is that we have a scrollable page, and that will be important later. So just enough to where it's longer than the height of your viewport. That way it will scroll. Okay. And so let's talk about the first one. I'm just going to give us a style of like test position. This is just the one that we're going to try all the values to learn about it. So let's make a class called test position. I can type. No, I can't. Okay. And so there is a CSS property called position. And so the default for this is static. And so if you have something position static, that just means that it is going to function how everything's functioned through this entire course. It's just going to sit on the page exactly where you would think it would. And so like this one has position static, and we expect that to sit at the top because it's at the top of the list. And we could, all of these are by default position static. Let's run through some of the other important ones. I had to read me just in case. Static relative. And so let's change this static to relative. Sweet. Okay, and you see nothing happens, right? And so what is position relative doing versus position static? Does anybody know?
Position relative is relative to the parent. And so depending on like what the parent position is, that's what kind of correlates and changes the position relative boxes, I think.
Yeah, so it's pretty close. So position relative is, I think I wrote a cheat sheet somewhere, if I can get everything out of the way. So position relative is position relative to its normal position. And so what that means is that the DOM, if this were a static element, knows where it should go and how big it should be, and it makes space for that element, right? And so position relative says, okay, compared to that space, we want to position it. And so what it means by position it is that we have different properties: top, bottom, left, and right. And so this means that we want to position relative and change the position of the box relative to its original position because of the position relative. Sorry, I'm saying position and relative too much. So let's look through those. So position top, let's give it a value of 10 pixels. And so what do we expect to happen when we have position relative top 10 pixels?
Pushes it down 10 pixels.
Yeah, and why down and not up if it says top?
It's 10 pixels from the top. And so if you did negative, it would move it closer, but it moves it down because it's 10 pixels away from it.
Yeah, that's 1000% right. And so we did 10, we can't really notice, we'll do 100. And so hard to see because they're the same color. We can give this a border just to really overlay. Border, 1 pixel, solid black. Okay, so there's this 200 pixel box that is now overlapping this other box, and it's not pushing that out of the way. And there's still space up here, like this one didn't move up, and that's because the DOM, not the DOM, I don't want to say the DOM, the page still knows that there should be something here that is 200 pixels, and so it's still keeping space for it, right? Okay, and so if I say static and leave the top 100 pixels there, nothing happens because static can't be positioned. Next, we'll look at fixed. And so fixed. All right, can someone explain what is happening here now that it's set to position fixed?
It seems like it's showing up like exactly 200 pixels from the top, no matter where you scroll on the page.
So it is positioned from the top, but 100 pixels instead of 200 pixels, because I set the top value to 100. And so it's positioned from the top of the page. And so this, we can actually do this real quick. 1, 2, just so we can see the order. We'll just do the first couple. So this is box 1, and then box 2 is now, I'm scrolled all the way to the top up here. And so box 2 is actually at the top of the page. And so that is happening because box 1 with position fixed no longer cares about its position in the page. If something is position fixed, the page doesn't keep its spot anymore. And so this is here, but I could also put it here, right? And it doesn't matter, nothing changes. It could be at the bottom, it could be outside of any parent or anything like that. It'll be positioned to the viewport, not within its parent, right? You can also see this is just like a little side thing. This one is now farther over or wider than this other one. And that's because its parent, when it's fixed, is not the body, it's the HTML, it's the all the way to the outside of the page, it's the viewport, right? And so the viewport is wider by this margin than these are. And so it is outside of, it keeps going, even though it's positioned left. Sweet. Okay, so let's put this back at the top just for right now. Okay, and let's change this to the next one, which is absolute. Okay, so again, we've got what looks pretty similar to fixed, except for now, whenever I'm scrolling, it is not coming with me, right? It stays at the top. And so what does a position absolute mean? Somebody have any ideas?
It means it just goes to that position on the page regardless of whatever else is there.
So position absolute is a special one because it's looking for what they call a relative parent. And so currently we have just this stack of boxes and then the body. And so there is no parent that has a position of relative. And so by default, the body has a relative value. And so it is positioning itself based on the body itself. And so it says, I'm going to be 100% or 100 pixels from the top of the body, which is this whole thing. But it doesn't stay with the viewport, it stays with the body, and the body is scrollable. And so that's why it stays here, it doesn't scroll with us, is because fixed is attached to the viewport itself, doesn't care about any parent. This one is attached to the highest relative parent, which in this case by default is the body. Okay. And then let's look at the last one that matters, which is sticky. So we change this to be sticky. Now, what do we expect? No one. All right. So sticky is a mix of all of them. Okay. It actually changes properties. And so it switches between relative and my brain, relative and fixed. Okay. And so it is relative until the user scroll position is met, and then it becomes fixed. And so since it is relative, it keeps its value, it keeps its space on the page. So it's relative right here, right? But then I start to scroll and now it's position fixed. And so it stays 100 pixels, and fixed obviously is relative to the viewport. And so it stays 100 pixels from the top regardless, right? And so this is super common for things like a nav bar, where you have a box up here that you want to just stay there while you scroll the page. And so we can do that. Say instead of position top, or instead of top 100 pixels, let's just delete that and see what happens. So now it just is in line. We have not set any values. So it's going to position like it's relative because we haven't set any values to tell it when to act like it's fixed. And so if we give it a top value of 0, then now it says, okay, when I'm at the top of the container, I'm fixed. And you see there's a little bit because it's when it's relative, whenever it's inside of here, when it hits the top of the page, 0, then now it's saying it's fixed. And so now it's acting like a nav bar. And so to get rid of the little white thing, obviously we need to reset the browser styles and get rid of the margin. But space 2, let's look at if we wanted to build our nav bar, but use fixed, which you'll kind of see some people do and then have to like pay for their mistakes later, is they'll say, okay, I want to use a fixed thing. And so that does what we want, right? But now box 2 is under this. And so it hasn't made space for it. And so now we're going to have to do something like give the body or, whatever parent shit. A padding top of 200 pixels to make room for that. Well, it's really 210 pixels because of the margin. Right, and so now this functions exactly like if it was sticky. Other than it being wider because we made it fixed and we still haven't got rid of that margin. And so this is the same thing, we're just doing extra work to just give it fixed, where sticky says, hey, I'm going to be relative and I'm going to be fixed when necessary. And so, oh, we never got rid of this ugly thing. Well, I guess you can also see this, right? There's all this space here, it hits 0 and then it stays. Awesome. Okay, so that is all of positioning. The other thing that's important is we talked about whenever we have a element, I was going to say box, but it could be any element, right? It could be a div or a p tag or an h1 or anything. They could all be positioned however. Whenever we have an element and it is positioned absolute, let's look at what it's like whenever you give it a relative parent, okay? So for this box right here, we're going to wrap it in a, we'll just give it, relative parent or some shit like that, okay? Save that. Okay, so now there is a div that is a box and it has this parent, and we're going to make the relative parent just have position relative. Position relative is position relative. Oh, I can do this. I'm sorry, I forgot. I just realized I don't have to make it big because you guys can all just see how nice. And this one is going to be position absolute. And position I was there and then it didn't want to autofill for me. Okay. Struggling. Perfect. Okay, so now we've got an absolute positioned box instead of a relative parent. And so what did I do? Oh, I didn't delete this. Save that, come here. And let's give this something so we know that this is going to be absolute. Okay, so this one has a div around it, we can't see it, but it has the position absolute and it's in a relative parent. And so what we can do is say, give this position absolute one the positioning values, so like top, right, bottom, left, right. And let's just do like left 200 pixels. Did I make the other one a box? We need 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I'll just leave that one. Okay, nice. So this is where things get super funky, right? Is that we have this div, all it has is a 7, and then this item that is positioned absolute. But like we know about absolute is that it doesn't keep its space in the browser, even for its relative parent, right? And so now this div thinks that it basically has no content other than the 7. All this knows is that it has a relative parent that should be at that space, but it has no content there, right? And so if we delete the 7, now this div is practically empty as far as the elements think. And so 7 is gone, 8 fills its place, and then this is relative to where 7 would be, which is now where 8 is, and then gets pushed 200 pixels to the right. So it gets a little funky whenever you're doing stuff like that. Generally, you won't have something something positioned absolutely inside of something positioned relative by itself. Things get funky. And we'll look at a better use case for this on like when you would want to do something position absolute instead of a relative parent. Awesome. Okay, so that is my dogs. One sec. Okay, so is there any questions around that bit? Looks like we're talking about Z index. We all good in the chat? Sweet. Yeah, we can mention Z index real quick for everyone who's not reading the chat. So Z index is basically, if we have X and Y, I don't know, you can see my face also. If you have X is horizontal and Y is vertical, then Z is like physically towards you. And so that's like layers on the page, right? And so overall, you want something with a Z index to be a higher number, and that means it'll be to the top of the page. And so we could do like this one. We'll just give these styles because this is going to be a quick one. Style is Z index of 0, no, 2, and we'll give this one a style of Z index of 1. We'll try. Maybe this one will need to go up here. This is the kind of stuff that you don't mess with a lot. Any ideas on how to make this box on top of
The Z
the?
index will only work if that's an absolute, or does it work for what? Is that a relative?
This one is static and this one is relative.
Yeah, so it only works on relative, fixed, and absolute.
Okay, sure. So then we'll need to make this a relative parent and then see what that does. Oh, I think it needs to be on this one, not that one. Oh, not inside of that thing though. Relative parent. Man, I'm really destroying this. There we go. Okay, so that did it. I set it to a -1, which takes its space out of the page. Z index is funky. You're not going to have to deal with it a lot, mostly in dealing with like modals and stuff like that.
I think if you
for now.
did it on 2 position fixed, like just somewhat like at the bottom right of the page, it'll probably be used. That's usually when.
Yeah.
That's probably the easiest way to show it.
Yeah. Well, we're going to look at a little chatbot thing in our examples also. Okay, so let's keep the same page, but just build in our examples here. So let's test position. We can just comment this out for now. I'll get rid of this box stuff, not all the box, just that class. And that can stay there. Awesome. Okay, so let's copy the nav bar that we started building over from day 6 in our exercises. And we're going to bring that over. If you guys have the repo pulled up or have your local copy, either way is fine. Just something to work with and we'll build on it. And so I'm just going to paste this on top. And so important things that we need here is we're using these icons from Font Awesome, and so we're going to need to pull that in as well. So let's take this URL there, or the script tag, and paste that in there. This is the bottom. What else did we need here? I think that's good. And then also we have all of these class names that we don't have inside of our CSS. And so let's bring those over as well. So inside of the styles, let's go ahead and get our resets, sans serif, border box, paste those in. Those are going to go on pretty much everything we do. And I've got this nav bar class. We want that. What else did we use? Align center, flex. Looks pretty good. So we just need those. Oh, and the GitHub icon and the icon. More and more and more. Okay, all of these. Does everyone, was it like you have access to that? Anyone following along at least? Enough that I can leave the code here and you can copy it. It's not a whole lot. Okay, so we've got this nav bar. Should, yeah, just come right in. And so right now it's just a static div at the top. And so we want this to stay at the top while we scroll. What should we use for that? What position should we give it?
Sticky.
Correct. All right, so we want to give this a sticky. We've got this header on the outside, so we can give this just something like position sticky, something like that. Position sticky, position. Oops. Oh, I did the short version of that. Okay. Okay, so now it's sticky. Ish. What did I do wrong? Oh, that says relative.
I just said relative.
That would be the issue. Okay. Oh, okay. What else did I do wrong?
Crickets.
So the main thing that you got to remember about sticky is that it is two types, right? It is relative and it's fixed. And so right
Oh, the
now it's
top.
acting like it's relative because we have not told it when to be fixed. And so we want it to be fixed. I don't really want to mutate this because it's kind of a small thing. We can actually change this because I don't think we're going to need a whole lot of sticky things. So let's just style the header because it's really only supposed to be one. And let's give that a position sticky and give it a top of 0. Oh my gosh, can't type. Okay, and let's delete this because I can need that actually. Okay, now still nothing great. Header, position sticky, top is 0.
It worked for me. Maybe you didn't save.
I did not save, dude. Working on these 2 pages is killing me. Yeah, that works. Perfect. Okay. And so we can also give the header like a margin bottom of like 20 feels good. Yeah. And so now there's just like some breathing room here. And so we're just going to go ahead and just like build out like a regular layout for most websites. You have a sticky header. Sometimes they have a sticky footer. That's what we're going to build. And then we're going to do a container, dog cam. We're going to do a footer and a container, something like Medium always does this container around their everything. Like everything is within this 1,000 pixels and it never gets wider than that. Even if you get to a really big screen and stuff, it just stays there. Awesome. So let's do a container, a footer, and then also what's something that has like a chat bot on it? Voyage app dot can't remember. Voyage app, something like that. Well, I thought I had a chat bot. Zach, do you have a good example of something with the thing? Or what's, I guess I could just go to their websites. They generally have one. Chat bot embed. That's one I've heard of.
Does anybody know? I don't know why I can't think of one. So any product
Try
website.
Verizon or AT&T. Usually they'll have like a little chat bot on the bottom so you can like buy stuff from them.
True. The one I'm thinking of that just popped up is Best Buy. I think they normally have a thing. All right, nobody has one. I feel like I get bothered by stuff
I
like
feel
this
like
all
I
the
can't
time.
go to a
and then-
site that doesn't have one. I don't know.
I gotta work with Xerox a lot. Xerox pops up pretty occasionally.
You can't spell Xerox. All right, you guys get it. You know what I'm talking about. We'll just make one and then. Yeah, I feel like they're always in the way, and then now I can't actually think of one. Okay, so let's do the container first. Just because it's such a common thing, it's good to know. So just build a container. Put that at the bottom of all this nonsense and create. You got header, nav bar. We can do it right here. Like you do them kind of vertically. And
There's a
container.
the website I just sent. It's onepeloton.com. It's like for Peloton bikes. They have a chat bot. Bottom right. Oh, and yours is not there. Oh, there
Oh,
it is.
It took a second. Yeah, exactly. And so this is position fixed almost definitely. And so this will be, we'll be building something similar to this. Oh, that sucks. Look at that. Okay, we'll build something better than that.
Looks different on mine.
Awesome.
It's weird.
I guess they just don't build for Mac or something, who knows? Build for, are you using a Mac
Yeah, I'm using Mac.
on Chrome? Weird. Okay, container, sorry, I'm getting distracted. Max width is 1,000 pixels. Nice. Do you guys remember a good way to center this entire container? Centered left and right.
Is it justify content center for this one or? Well, we're not doing flex, are we?
Yeah, so this would need to be inside of a Flex container for that, right?
Yeah,
You just margin
just
auto.
margin auto, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Oops. And the typing is not with me today. Yeah, perfect. Okay, get rid of this thing. I don't know what I just pressed. Okay, there we go. Okay, so now we've got something that looks, this is still ugly, but now you can see more absolute nonsense. Not absolute nonsense, but it kind of is. All right, so let's do a footer. Container. And is there a semantic footer? There is, yeah, let's do that. So we'll have a footer and we'll do, let's get a new image or an icon. Like, you know, everybody has like a little copyright thing in the bottom. Copied, pasted, and we'll just say like my, you can do just like a P, we'll do a P tag.
Oh, Annie, I think you're unmuted there.
All right, So we've got a footer. Give it a class. And make it, just call it footer also. And what do you guys think is a good approach to styling the footer to make it stick at the bottom? While we're scrolling, to be specific. I guess I don't need this. I'll just style the footer itself. Okay, so we've got position. What should we make it? Should we make it fixed or sticky?
It
feel like
would
it should still
also
be
be
sticky.
sticky, yeah.
Sticky. Okay.
Then use some
Yeah.
padding or something to push it down, maybe.
Got a sticky footer, and then like what else should I put on here to make it do its thing?
Just
Something for
bottom
the bottom.
0, right?
Yeah.
Correct. 0. All right, so now I've got that over there. It is doing ugly stuff, but we'll fix that. Oh gosh. Okay, let's go ahead and give this just like a display. Flex, align, no, justify, content, center. And how do we fix this ugly thing here?
Flex direction row? Or what is?
So
I don't
so
even
it's in
know
a
what that
row.
is.
So it's this copyright is on the left, and then this my website is on the right.
On a align item center.
That's right.
Yeah. Add that.
Okay, so now we've got a footer that is there. Let's give it a background color, just match our head background color. We could do something like this, header and footer, fodder. Give them both that background color and just delete that from the nav bar itself. Now they both have that. We can give them both the same text color. Leave that. Nice. Okay. So now I've got a footer and it's sticky. So we've got a sticky header, sticky footer. All of this stuff is static. This is ugly. Let's do our little chatbot thing. What is the best place to put this chatbot in our code? Like, where should I put it in here?
Should go at the very bottom.
Like outside of the footer or
Would
below the
you
footer?
keep it in the footer and then push it out of your footer space on the page with styling?
Yeah. Could I put it like up here though? Like just stick it right here, chat.
Yeah, I guess if you could position it to wherever you want afterwards, right?
Right. We'll do that just for ugliness first, and then we'll just move it to where like it should go. But you can do chat position. We're going to do fixed, right? Because we want it to stay there and it doesn't need to have any position anywhere else on the page. And so fixed is like the perfect thing for that thing. And so let's do right. So this is going to position it from the right of the page, however much, let's say 20 pixels, 30 pixels, feels right. And then from the bottom, we need to account that we're going to have this footer at the bottom that is this tall. And so let's give that a give it room to be above that. And so how tall is the footer? 50 pixels. So this is 30 pixels out, so we'll say 80 pixels, and then we'll see if it's ugly or not. Okay, and then we need to give the chat like, you know, some content to display also, and like, you know, height and width and everything like that. So let's do an icon inside of here that is a chat bot. That is nothing, chat. Comment. What is this one? Regular? Nice. Slap that in there. Save that. And then come in here and we should see this tiny little thing there. Positioned horribly. Okay. So let's make it look prettier. So we can give this a font size to size it up. Something around 30 pixels might be good. Yeah, it looks pretty average. Let's give it. So you can set it a height and width. Something like 30. So let's say like 50 pixels. Width is 50 pixels. Oh, we also need a background color. Someone give me another color. Dom, this is your chance.
Fuchsia.
Fuchsia. Nice. Okay, so we've
Waiting
got a
for that.
background color of fuchsia. And we've got color of white. Not white. We'll use our off-white. Okay. So we've got this. What would you guys recommend doing here?
Can you do a border radius?
Border radius, yeah. So that's step one for sure. Oop, missing that. I think I killed it. Make sure everything still looks the same, sure. Okay, border radius of what? Ideally, we'll be making a circle. If we wanted to do it, which one did we look at again? Oh, it was in the chat, huh? This one, this one. If we wanted to make it like theirs, whenever it shows up, eventually, right there. So they just did a small border radius, but we want a circle.
Would
So
we
what is the
just
border?
do half the width and height and call it 25 pixel radius?
Just do 50%.
Okay, we'll do both of those and we'll see. So half of the width and the height is, you're gonna have to help me with what you're saying. So you said 25
as-
pixels.
Yeah, 25 would be half of either
And-
one.
Save that. Yeah, sure.
That looks pretty good.
I figured because if we do the percentage, whenever the viewport widens, it starts turning into like a weird like
Yeah, gross
So let's
ellipses.
try-
weird pill.
The other one's 50%. Yeah, awesome. I think both of those work fine. I think whenever I did 100%. Maybe anything over 50 is fine. Let's see. 55%. 49%. Okay, it's kind of oblong. Anyways, like I said, I don't really get percents. And my prep for this, I just said 100 and called it good. We'll talk about the extra thing of your suggestion. There's Jeremy, right? Of setting it to 25 pixels. So how do I get this to be center to this? One
You-
option is, go ahead.
I was saying you could text align the icon, right?
Yeah. So that's, yeah, sure. So let's do that. Text align center. How do I make it vertically center?
The align item center.
So make this a
That
flex
could be flex, yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
and then align items Setner. Okay, so I made it a flex, but now I need to do justify content
Yeah, you have to
because
justify it as well.
it's
Yeah,
making it
yeah.
to the left, right? So we can do justify. Content. Jesus. Okay. There we go. All right. So that does what we want, right? Looks good. But let's say that, oh, we can also get rid of this. Let's say that we have more hide and we set this to 25 pixels. So it still looks correct. But we want this image, or we want this to change. Let's say it's like width and height are both set to 3 rem, something like that. And so now, if the font size of the page changes, then this size right here will change because rem is based on that, right? And so we're going to a smaller screen. We want to use bigger text or smaller text, depending. And so maybe we change the font size of our entire application. And so now this will get thrown off. It's pretty similar, but let's make it really out there. Not 40. Let's do 6. That's kind of big. But now our 25 pixels doesn't cover the job anymore for our border radius. And so also this is no longer matched to that. And so setting the height and width here, this is just kind of like a nitpicky thing on just kind of a best practice. But for something like this, setting the height and width itself kind of add a lot of extra work that you have to do. And so if you just don't set the height and width, then now we're stuck with this. And so instead of using height and width, just using padding all the way around. And then no matter how much this icon grows or shrinks, depending on the font size, depending on whatever, depending on maybe you're on mobile, so you want it to be smaller, something like that, then it'll automatically adjust. And so that adds like the responsivity of responsiveness of everything. So let's get us padding of 10 pixels. And so it kind of ends up looking how we want. And we don't set the height and width. And so if the font size of the icon we want to be bigger, say 50 pixels, now it still has proper padding, but now the border radius is also not, we're hard coding the pixels. And so I think that's where using something like 50% is fine, but I just 100% really just shows your message that it should be 100% round. So there's that, right? And this could be a little more, like 12 or 14. Nice. Okay, so that looks, we can make it smaller, not so ugly, but that looks like, what we're trying to go for. We've got an icon down here. Here's something cool that we can do. Let's look at the Peloton thing again. In the chat, we're not gonna, you'll need JavaScript to kind of do anything in most cases with a chatbot like this and like hiding and showing elements. And so we'll learn that, in 2 weeks, but this will show up eventually. While that is waiting, we'll go look at our site. Yeah, so we put this in the middle of our code, right? Time is 6:20, we've got a little bit of time. So put this in the middle of our code here, and that was just to show that position fix doesn't care where it goes, it doesn't matter, but we can go ahead and just put it, I would just put it somewhere here-ish to just kind of show relative where it is on the page. It's kind of between the footer and the container a little bit. It's not really anywhere, right? That's the point. But okay, so then the last bit is we wanted to show something with a relative parent that also has a absolute absolute position thing. And so let's go to GitHub for that. And so the icons that we copied over, we have those, but they have these little things that are like, hey, you've got a notification, and that's like on top of this. And so that's a great example of something like, hey, this is absolutely positioned relative to this icon there. And so let's do that. So we've got this icon, and so best way to do it for clarity is to wrap the icon in a div instead of making the icon the parent, because icon should just contain the icon. And so we'll make this a relative parent if I still have that. We could just call it position relative, it's fine. Position relative. And let's wrap that icon in it. And let's put a alert symbol, something like that. Okay, so we've got a relative thing, we've got this alert symbol, so let's style our alert symbol. This is going to be a tiny little guy. It's going to be like 5 or 6 pixels wide and tall. We can do the border radius is 100% because it's a circle. We can do position is absolute. We can give it a background color of something that shows you that it needs to be clicked on. About aqua. Sure. Okay, so side thing here is that these all just happen to be inline this tag. And so the div didn't need to be a flex, but now we've got a div on there. So then now this parent needs to actually be a flex of its own. Class equals flex. Okay, now we're back. Where's my little dude? Class alert symbol width, height, background color, absolute, relative. Let's make it 60 so we can see it. Okay, he is there. Okay, he's right there. Nice. All right, so right now it's positioned absolutely, but we have not told it any positioning stuff. And so we can give it a top of 0 and a right of 0. And let's just see how that looks. Actually pretty freaking close. We can make this a little bigger. The sucky thing about this is that everything is kind of relative to each other. So if you make it bigger, then now it's too far in or whatever. And so you got to keep changing the width and the tops and all these values over and over again, in my experience. So let's change this icon. We can also move this to be closer to its buddies. Icon. Let's give the icon a margin right of 10 pixels. Let's just space them out a little bit. Perfect. So the icon itself has a margin right. And so we're going to need to put the margin on its parent, not on the icon itself. See, because it's just pushing this over. And so the parent, it's not actually pushing this over because it's absolutely positioned, but it's making the parent make space for that, which then this is now styled to the top right of the parent that is now bigger. And so we just need to give this. We can actually just give this the class of icon, will work fine, because the font size will carry down. Nice, sweet. Okay, so that is a absolutely positioned element instead of a relative container. This is a fixed position element on fixed relative to the viewport. These are both sticky elements relative to the viewport as long as their scroll condition is met. And everything else is just static, and that's positioning. Sweet. Okay, so we've got literally 4 minutes, but this will be pretty quick. Let's go ahead and just change this to be called home. And let's make a new HTML file called contact. Just make a contact page. Just, shortcut, copy and paste everything, delete all the shit out of the middle. Let's just delete. I want the chat bot, I want the container, just delete all this stuff. And so this is the ultimate downfall of CSS, or not CSS, of raw HTML and raw CSS, is that there is no such thing as reusing code or anything like that. Everything just gets copied over because it's all just, I'm showing you this page and it has this CSS imported. And so they could both share the same CSS file, but as far as like this nav bar, you have to just copy and paste the entire nav bar. And so we'll fix that later, like in the course, whenever we do React and stuff like that. That's kind of the whole point of React, is that this would be one thing that we could use in both places. But for now, just building raw HTML sites, you just copy and paste your header over. And let's delete this and just say that, okay, this is the contact page. And we'll need to go to the home page. Now this is changed. And let's change our links right here. Pull request. This one's going to say home. And it's just going to be linked to itself or dead link, whatever. And this one is going to be contact. And so this is going to say href equals star pound, and then target is blank. That means just like, hey, don't go anywhere. And then this one is going to be href equals this, and we'll say go to what is it? Oh, it's the HTML file itself. Classic contact.html. Okay. And so now we're on this page. We should be able to click on contact, takes us to the contact page. We need to fix that. You're seeing the downfall here is that now our contact page doesn't match, but that's something we'll live with. Paste that in there, switch these. And so this one on the contact page will be this, and we'll have a target of blank. And this one will not. And this one will take us home. Oops, stay there, go away. To home, but HTML. Awesome. Okay, so now we've got like working navigation that can go back and forth. And so this is going to be our hacky way for us to just build multiple pages and build someone that represents like a functional website. There's a lot of duplicated code, which is like the worst part of code, is you don't want to duplicate it. Oh, I think it died. Okay, can you hear me now? There we go. Okay. So that's kind of the end of today. This will set up us nicely for Saturday. We're going to be building out a project that will have a couple of pages. You'll be able to reuse some of the code that we've built, and we'll have details about what we'll be building, but it'll be expected that you'll have sticky header, sticky footer, multiple pages, be mostly responsive, and that'll be good. Sweet. Any questions about anything we covered today? Nice.
I think I'm good so far. Yep.
Awesome. All right. Well, I will see you guys Saturday.
Alrighty, sounds like a plan. See you then.
Cool.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
Right?
Dog cam.
Yeah, he's hungry.
Bye, thanks.
Bye.
Appreciate it. Good coding.
Yeah.
All right, see you guys. Killing it.